3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 26, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, more fallout from the massive Microsoft layoffs, and we keep finding reasons to say the word Switch 2. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Timur Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
I'm here. I am ready for Dregs Day. I cannot wait. I'm very excited for Dregs Day because you know what? I love Dregs.
I love the dregs.
And let me tell you some absolute Dregs. Actually, there's some pretty big stories there as well. But
Yeah, actually, we got some actual stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the Nintendo one.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to it. Well, there's plenty here.
I love it. I also love hunting for antiques. So,
yeah, it's I do look forward to getting to Friday for Dregs Day. Absolutely, go through the dregs. When you make your tea, do you use tea bags, or are there actually like loose leaves? So there actually are tea dregs in there.
So I have two types of tea. In a normal day, I'll have two types of tea. I will sometimes. Well, actually, these days I'm more bag focused, but I will usually
Get your bag.
ensure that I'm securing the bag. I will try and make it in the style of a South Asian chai, which means I'll add like cinnamon and cardamom and cloves to it and ginger and that kind of stuff. So it has a chai vibe to it more than a just a straight up, like tea.
Right.
A Western tea.
Well, TT, that is what a chai tea is, right? TT?
Yeah, chai tea. That is exactly what it is.
TT.
Chai tea latte.
Yep.
TT coffee.
Yep. I was actually, you mentioned that to me recently, I think, that chai tea is repetitive. And I got a crossword puzzle where it's like a repetitive way of saying like tea or something like that. And that was the solution. I'm like, oh, thanks, Tam. So came in handy. We're off next week. Well, excuse me. I'm off next week, so this show is off next week. That's what I mean by we. The Giant Bomb will still have plenty of stuff happening. Definitely tune in for that.
I'll do it on my own. Just screaming into a microphone every day in the mornings.
Yeah, we'll just show up and see what happens. If Tam might be here yelling at you about video game news, I'll watch. I'll be excited about that. I'll be sitting there with the now 5-year-old. We'll tune in and be like, hey, look at Tam doing his thing. But in the meantime, let's make this a good show, and then I'll be back in about a week, everybody. A little bit after, about 10-ish days or something like that. All right.
If anything wild happens, I will try and make it a thing where it's like, Jan, can you just get me a microphone tomorrow? And
all right. Deal. Definitely do that. All right. Yeah. Fantastic. And again, I'll be tuning in. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right.
Hello, YouTube.
We have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with a rumor that Microsoft could be looking to limit physical game releases. This is from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. It's been a dark day for the games industry, with almost 2,000 employees being forced to leave their jobs at Xbox Game Studios, as well as Blizzard CEO Mike Ybarra stepping down from his role. Dark day. A direct effect of the overemployment that occurred during COVID, but also a reflection of the difficult economic times. However, it seems that not only developers have been affected by today's layoffs at Microsoft and Xbox Game Studios, because according to a report from Jez Corden over at Windows Insider, it seems like they are shutting down their internal team that publishes games physically. He says he's been told that the entire team over there has been let go that handles that, and that team was previously at Xbox. It's not like a new team coming in from Activision Blizzard. This is maybe a little surprising, not too surprising, right, Tam? Physical game sales seem to be a less important factor with Xbox these days, more so than ever. Still, though, that is, it's like, oh, it seems like if you were going to be having big games coming out of Xbox, getting them in retail, making a big deal about that would still be important. What do you think?
Yeah, I would like to know what this division, as it's been referred to, does. Like, physical game division is very broad. What does that mean? Is it the people that deal with, the marketing element of having physical games? Is it the people who, are in charge of making sure the discs are physically pressed? Is that the thing? I feel like that would be. I can see the logic behind it, or I can make it make sense. It just feels very premature to me right now. I'm not saying it isn't the case. I'm just saying, like, I feel still skeptical about the idea that Microsoft is like, everyone who is involved in making sure we have physical games available is gone at a
Right.
time when people are still buying physical games. The conversation around physical games and owning games hasn't been settled. It is still very much in process of being settled, unless this is a case of Microsoft like moving a piece on the board to say we're going to settle this and just kill physical games on our thing in the next few months.
And it could be them just being like, listen, this is a thing that we had been doing internally because it's a major part of our business, and now it's definitely less of a part of their business than it has been in the past, and so they're like, we'll just outsource it going further. Still is it's shocking and deplorable that all those people lost their jobs. Microsoft's a big business. It's likely a lot of those people could have got shifted around instead of just being left to rot and kicked out of the building. But in terms of Microsoft's strategy here, Matt Piscatella does point out from Circana's retail tracking service, in the United States in 2023, physical spending on software for Nintendo platforms accounted for more than half of total physical software spending. Meanwhile, physical spending on software for Xbox platforms accounted for less than 10% of total physical spending. So that's, I mean, and once we start thinking about it a little bit, Tam, it's, well, they did sell a lot of Xbox Series S's. So just inherently, like, there are fewer people out there who are even considering physical games. And it seems like that has had that's done quick work. And at the same time, a lot of people getting Xbox Series X's are like, yeah, I mean, I want the disc drive for when I get the disc-based games. And then they get Game Pass. Then they play a lot of online digital games that they're downloading, a lot more Fortnite and stuff like that. And they just end up buying fewer physical games. It seems like for Microsoft, it is come down fast. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I said, it makes sense, and like, I'm not surprised if they do this. I think the case is more the thing that confuses me about it is like the perception part of it. I don't think Microsoft is already in a spot where they're willing to take the kind of hearts and minds hit that would come from being like, all right, we're done with this. Bye.
I agree.
It's again, it's too early. And especially them with the memory of the Xbox One still lingering constantly. It's something they can bring up, and they know that, oh, if we start making moves towards this, people are just going to throw this in our face, and then we've got to deal with this from a marketing perspective. I think like in my like mind, I think the slow like bleeding out of the process is what I would expect them to do. Maybe they're like, this is our opportunity to just get it done with and over with.
I think both are. I think it's still part of the slow bleeding. It's just like it is exposing that is like their end, what they're eyeing as the end goal. But I think you're right. I think the overt strategy, the public-facing strategy, will be a slow bleeding of, well, yeah, Hellblade 2 is not going to get a physical release. That's only a $50 game. It's 8 hours. It's better if that's just digital. And a handful of games more here and there don't get physical releases from Microsoft. And I think in the meantime, they'll keep offering, like when they have a digital only like big boy console coming down the line, which probably will happen eventually. Those were the rumors that came out of the FTC documents, that there would be like a revision of the Xbox Series X that didn't have a disc drive. They might sell a separate disc drive separately because they'll like, we're still going to sell physical games to people who want it. And it's like, I think they expect fewer and fewer people to want it, to the point when they one day stop making physical games, it'll be like make just a small little squeak when they do it.
The other thing is like, I'm trying to think about how many big games they've put out in the last year plus that have warranted like a major physical push. And I can't think
Yeah.
of anything. That maybe the last Forza and Halo Infinite were the ones. Like in my mind, since then the big Xbox games that have come out have been like Hi-Fi Rush.
I mean,
and
Starfield. I mean,
Starfield,
Yeah.
and even like it's wild that I just don't even think about Starfield in that regard. Where it's just like,
well, I mean, we got.
guess
I mean,
so.
this is related to that story we heard about Walmart destroying Starfield discs, and they're not going to sell Starfield discs anymore
For
now.
fun? They're doing that for funsies?
I think they just like were letting off some steam. You know how it goes sometimes.
Just frisbeeing discs into the air.
Apparently, they're just going to take him out back and him with the hammer. That's a normal thing at retail, which I find to be very strange. But I guess that's something that retail does sometimes. It's maybe, I don't know. Maybe we aren't seeing it, Tam. Maybe this is all just going to happen real fast here. And they later this year they announced some new Xbox revision that doesn't have a disc drive, and there is no disc drive. And it's like, no, we're all digital. Fuck you. I hope
they surprise us and announce a new version of the Xbox with 2 disc drives.
Yeah,
on it, and they're like,
it's got a disc rewriter in there. We're going to go back and make it mixed CDs.
It comes out and someone's like, why the fuck is there a UMD reader on this? What's going on?
Mini disc. It just has all the physical formats. That's the way they really are going to go. I mean, Nintendo Switch, I think, captured a lot of collectors' imagination, and I think people were happy to keep buying physical games for that. But based on these numbers, Switch is maybe like 55%, according to Mac Piscatello here, just kind of estimating. He said more than half. We'll say that Xbox is at like 5 to 8%. That puts PlayStation physical sales somewhere between 35 to 40% of the market in that range. And it's like, that's also probably like drifting down a little bit, but probably much slower. There is a digital version of the PS5. Very few people have that. They do have the new model now that doesn't come with the disc drive necessarily. You can get it included, but I that's probably also drifting down slowly. That I think that's what I was expecting Xbox to be more like. The fact that here it's already below 10%, and here they are not concerning themselves with selling games physically internally. And when they are going to do that, they probably will just hire someone out externally to handle that for them. It's like, okay, for Microsoft, it's here. They're moving on. I've asked this of kind of everyone we had this conversation with. Might ask you, but like disc drive on the next big, when we go from Xbox Series X, not to a revision, but whatever is next generation, will there be a disc drive of any kind?
For Microsoft specifically?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I feel like no. I feel like we might have a switch around where it's like they have a version with a disc drive, and either it will be something that's like, oh, you can, buy it as an option and bolt it on. Or I think at the very least, we're going to get a kind of switch around where, how the Xbox Series X is currently the golden child or the favored child, and the Series S is like just kind of the one that like, oh, we've also got this. It's going to be the other way around where they're like, we've got this thing. It's a circle. It doesn't have a disc drive. If you want one of those things, we've also got that thing over there, which is like the other version, the next gen version of a Series Series S that will have the disc drive, and they'll push the one without it. I mean, Sony's done the same already. Yeah, Sony's done the same already with their disc one and the digital one, and now the PS5 Slim has that detachable disc drive. Which I've got a Slim, I just don't have the disc drive connected to it. Like it is, and you know what, it rules.
Yeah, I originally got the PS5 digital, so yeah.
However, I do still like owning things. So
of course, yeah. I mean, I think that's the real thing for like us is like people trying to exist in the video game industry or like consume video game media. It's complicated. I like the idea. I still like the idea of owning stuff. I don't want that to go away. In my personal life, I like the convenience of having everything on the device digitally. But that could, if I suddenly was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to have shelves full of games again. That could happen at any moment to me. I'm 40. My midlife crisis is just going to keep developing in many new and exciting ways. And I don't want that option to go away. So, it's going to keep getting kind of messy, and I think it probably is going to keep deprecating to the point where we're going to look around and be like, oh, most of these games that we would have thought would have been on disc, last generation, now that's not happening as much. And Grand Theft Auto 6 definitely will be on discs, on shelves, but I think there's going to be a tier below that, maybe 2 tiers below that was like, maybe it's going to be a roll of the dice.
I feel like there is a really good opportunity to do what, I can't remember what company it is, but they do the special editions of games. I always forget.
Yeah, there's limited run. There's a handful.
Yeah,
the limited
run
the big
something
one.
where it's like, Hellblade 2 comes out, it does well, let's say, and people are super into it. They looked at that, they know that, people are really into this game. Let's make a very nice, high-end physical version of this game.
This is what happened with Baldur's Gate 3, right? Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't necessarily have a physical edition. There is a collector's edition, though, that has physical, I think a physical disc in it, but it definitely is for the physical collector.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good middle ground, as long as they don't as long as they make sure that they're actually putting in the work and making nice stuff instead of just here's one of those plastic green cases that comes with all these Xbox games. Have fun.
Yep. All right, sticking kind of in the same vein here, new details about Blizzard's canceled survival game have been revealed. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Fresh details about Blizzard's canceled survival game have been revealed. On Thursday, Microsoft announced plans to lay off 1,900 staff across Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard. Alongside the news, it was confirmed that Blizzard's president, Mike Ibarra, and its chief design officer, Alan Adham, are leaving the studio. And that its untitled survival game, which was announced in January 2022, is no longer in development. Inspired by games like Minecraft and Rust, the project was codenamed Odyssey, was set in a new universe, and had been in development for 6 years, according to Bloomberg sources. Staff were only informed of its cancellation on Thursday, and it's claimed that many of the 100-plus people who had been working on it there were told that they were being let go. In a leaked internal email, Microsoft's Game Content and Studios president, Matt Booty, said that the company would be shifting some of the people working on it to one of the several promising new projects Blizzard has in its early stages of development. According to Bloomberg, the project was ultimately canceled because of technical issues with the game engine being used to make it. While it was originally prototyped on Epic's Unreal Engine, Blizzard executives felt the technology wasn't the right fit because it wouldn't support the goal of having vast maps supporting up to 100 players simultaneously. Instead, they wanted the Odyssey team to build the game using Synapse, an internal engine the studio had originally created for mobile games and wanted to be shared across many of its projects. However, it's claimed that this suite of tools and technology was slow to coalesce, and Odyssey was ultimately canceled when they concluded that Synapse was not production ready. As difficult as making decisions are, and this is a quote, experimentation and risk-taking are part of Blizzard's history and the creative process, Blizzard spokesman Andrew Reynolds said. Ideas make their way into other games, or in some cases become games of their own. Starting something completely new is among the hardest things to do in gaming, and we're immensely grateful to all the talented people who supported the project. Tam, a couple things here. One, this seems to be something that is, maybe it's not more common at Blizzard, but maybe because we just hear about it, but maybe it is more common at Blizzard, of them trying to do something big and new and it not working, and them having to shift all those resources to something smaller and more refined. And that got us Overwatch. That's great. But now looking at the state of Overwatch, it's like, man, maybe what if one of these projects just worked when you started it? And then the other thing, of yet again this story of executives wanting to use their internal goddamn engine in a world where it's been proven over and over again that you should just use the engine that developers are most comfortable with and has the most variability. And I know people have some hesitation about, everything's on Unreal Engine. We used to have so many different things. It's like, it's just not the way the world works anymore. You could do anything with Unreal Engine, and we got to a world where everyone's using a couple of guitars from a couple guitar manufacturers, and yet we still have a lot of different kinds of music. It's going to be the same thing with games going forward, right?
Yeah. This is who made the judgment call that, this doesn't work with Unreal Engine? Yeah. Because I imagine I imagine it being one of these executives, and the thing that sticks out to my mind is Unreal Engine is so popular now that developers work directly with Epic to get stuff that they need to make their games. I just cannot fathom a world where Blizzard goes to Epic and is like, yo, can you help us make this work in a massive open world with 100 people? And Epic is like, can't do it, man.
Yep.
Can't do it. It's not possible. That sounds like a straight up lie to me. Like I do not like the things that they make the Unreal Engine do is baffling. Like the stuff that they do, it's like, oh, this is working on a movie. We're using this in XYZ thing.
Yeah.
Like that engine is basically putty.
Yes.
They mold to anything. So the idea that, oh, we finally found the thing that Unreal Engine isn't capable of, and there's nothing we can do about it, so you have to use this engine instead, is like weird. I don't get it. Like I don't make games. I'm not super familiar with Unreal Engine. I know there have been some issues with Unreal Engine here and there, but something so severe that a major developer with that much talent and know-how is just like, can't do it. Let's use an internal engine doesn't seem right to me. And I think what is likely more the case is like, how do we save money on developing this? We're usually spending a lot of money on Unreal Engine. Well, we have our own engine. Why don't we do that?
That's exactly right. And like hearing it was prototyped on Unreal and then moved to something else internally, that's the like sets off alarm bells. Had the studio been like, no, we're very comfortable working with the tools that we have. Someone in chat mentioned like IOI. Like IOI probably never considered Unreal Engine for Hitman. They didn't need to. They were very happy working with their tools. They knew how to use them and knew how to get the most out of them. But when Mass Effect 5, it's like, man, what are they going to use? Or like the whole the BioWare, like you going from Unreal Engine and then swapping over to
make it on Frostbite.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like that was clear. Like, oh, that was an internal demand, and they went from Unreal to this other thing. Had they just stuck with Unreal, they would have been better off. Seems like the same thing would have been true here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what games have been made using the Synapse engine, and I mean, like, it doesn't look like it's super popular, but like, I can't, like, you type the name in of an engine and usually games pop up and you're like, oh, this is made in this.
Right. They said it's Blizzard mobile games. I imagine that doesn't mean necessarily like Hearthstone.
Fucking,
there are a couple like, there's some WoW mobile games. I honestly don't keep track of them.
I don't know how you make the only engine that I know of that is really good at making mobile games and can also scale up to AAA games is Unreal Engine.
Unreal.
And maybe
Unity
if you're like real good at using that thing. This feels like a executive decision through and through, and it's one that has done irreparable damage to people. And this is the story of the video games industry, especially over the last few months. It is the consequences of people who have no clue what they're doing, no clue what they're talking about, making people who know everything about it and probably know the right thing to do things that make no sense, and then forcing them to live with the consequences.
And meanwhile, a smaller team in Japan is like, let's make Pokemon with guns in Unreal Engine, and they're selling 8 million copies in a week. This game would they would kill to be like, oh, to have that kind of success. Blizzard does usually have that kind of success, but to have a new game just launch and do that well immediately, they would kill for that too.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure this conversation around engines has way more nuances,
of course.
and like I said, we're not developers.
Correct.
I have only messed with Unreal Engine just for funsies, and I do not know the full extent of what you can and cannot do with it. So maybe I'm completely wrong. But again, like, I just the way this is set up and explained, it feels like the people who have that knowledge and to make that decision accurately aren't the people making that decision.
Yep, it's and you're right. The real world ramifications of actually ended up hurting people. Now with this whole team basically getting kicked out the door, they said they're going to move some people to other projects, but it sounds like most of them are losing their jobs. And it's just another cost cutting measure that was basically led into by a previous cost cutting measure where they're like, we could save more money by not going with Unreal. And listen, I get that to a certain extent. Profit margins on games, if you're not like sure that it's going to be an infinite moneymaker like a Fortnite or, I guess Overwatch at one point, you're like looking at 15% margins. So every little bit matters. And when maybe you have to get I don't know how much it is, like 5% you have to give to Unreal or give to Epic. That can cut into it big time. I get that. But again, like Pal World's doing just fine. 8 million. If you even this big team was selling 8 million copies, that would be more than 15%. And I bet Blizzard would find ways to monetize it beyond that as well. All right. One last thing in this. Only 12% of German game companies expect industry growth in 2024. Just figured this would cap off this conversation. This is from James Batchelor at GamesIndustry.biz. German developers and publishers largely have a negative outlook when it comes to the year ahead for the country's video game industry. That's according to the annual industry barometer survey conducted by German trade body Game. This study of 125 member companies shows that only 12% of respondents expect a positive economic development for Germany's game industry in 2024, significantly lower than 48% of the companies that were optimistic in 2023. Why are we talking about Germany? That's where we have the data from. Can this be extrapolated across the globe? Maybe not one for one in every territory. I bet this is pretty indicative of how developers are feeling worldwide. Maybe not to the point where only 12% of developers in, let's say, the United States are feeling like they're going to grow. But I bet a similar decline has happened from 48% to 12% in Germany. I bet something similar is happening in about every territory in the world right now. This is what we're dealing with. And this is the underlying thing that's behind all this. The industry isn't growing really, and it was expected to grow, keep momentum coming out of the pandemic. And those were already inflated highs. And now we're not even crashing back down to earth, Tam. It's just kind of stagnating. And that's enough to do this much damage. Imagine if the industry was shrinking. Imagine if we were down 2%, Tam. How much on the fire would be so much worse. It's actually a little bit scary to me.
It is scary. I think that we are now, a lot of people are realizing this is an industry built on sand and is a house of cards made of glass and whatever. Every other fucking, cliche that you can add to it, talking about how vulnerable and fragile it seems to be. I don't know how you fix that. I mean, I have ideas, but I'm a dum-dum who sits outside and comments on games, and the people who are in. What I do know is it doesn't feel like there is a concerted intent or even a desire to fix it or find ways around it, because the kind of path is being led by people who are very, very focused on margins, revenue
for the next quarter.
For the next quarter and nothing more. That is the biggest issue. Beyond that, it's whatever. And it's a cliche at this point, and it's romanticized because of how long we've had them. But the only company that feels like it is doing kind of forward-looking planning for its future is Nintendo. Out of all of these,
yes, I agree.
And it's it's not, they're not doing it in, there's, when people say that, when I say that, in my mind, I think about the way, Iwata would talk about looking after developers and working within the legal system to make sure that it's, they're not doing anything weird and all that kind of stuff, and thinking about the future of the games business. So that's the romanticized version. But also Nintendo these days has taken a very clinical approach to future proofing. Yep. And stuff like dumb shit they've made this game and they've got it on a shelf and they are not publishing it. It sucks for us. We're what the why isn't this not out? To them,
you're making me look like an asshole. Release Metroid Prime Remastered. I have
to keep cutting my hair.
Yeah, god damn it.
But for them, the reasoning is probably, we see a gap here that could be potentially hurtful for us if, as a company and the way we run, and we can potentially fill that gap and minimize the issues there by moving this there and not, having it come out right now. That kind of approach to it.
Or it's it could be they're looking at, okay, so we have 5 games ready to go, and it takes us, in order to QA and market these things, that takes a lot more people. What are we going to do about this? Are we going to hire up while we have these 5 extra games at the moment, so that we have to have these teams, and then we get to a point where we're past all that, and then we're looking around and being well, we got nothing for you to do. Get the fuck out the door. Or do we just put these things in a line and we slowly hire up and we be very responsible and cautious? This is the story of the Japanese game industry right now. I think the lesson there is that some of those regulation laws do cause them to be very hesitant about hiring up. But it means when you get hired there, you are locked in, and it's very unlikely you're going to get laid off. And so which is better, where it's easier to get a job, but much easier to get laid off, or a little bit more difficult to get a job and much more difficult to get laid off? I think I know which one I would pick, but I get why people do pick one or the other. And that just seems like Nintendo's benefiting from this right now in the current scenario that we're in.
I mean, like, they still have their issues. Contractors, I believe,
100%.
have it rough
Yes, they do.
in Japan. But also, like, on the flip side of that, I think the Japanese law and the language around it protects people, or it has very specific kind of guardrails against layoffs there.
Yes, they do.
And,
yes, that's why they're they're afraid to hire it, because they're like, it will be difficult to get these people there, which is an argument against regulation. I get that. I hear that. I understand. Like, but you want, like, people. It creates more jobs by just making it easier for people to get laid off later. And it's like, okay, that feels like a catch-22. It feels like there is something fundamentally unsound about that still. Maybe there's a middle ground here. I don't know if we can find it.
I mean, like, the end of that, the kind of like the message behind that law is they are protected to a degree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the developers at these companies are protected and have bargaining power when they are the essential labor that makes the game. They have some control over that labor, and that's something that doesn't exist most places around the world. It definitely doesn't exist in America unless you implement that one U word. So
usurp the ruling class.
Exactly, usurp these bitches. That's what I'm saying.
We're on Nintendo, and this is going to lead into the thing that we're going to talk about after the break in some ways. But I do wonder, do you think the industry is kind of like for the most part, a lot of these third-party developers especially are kind of playing wait and see until the Switch 2 launches, and they're like kind of hoping that is going to be the thing that breaks the fever? Because we could see a lot of quick growth based on that. And they're like, well, let's just wait and see. We shouldn't make any bets until we know how the next Nintendo hardware is going to go. Is it going to be another Switch, a Wii, or is it going to be a Wii U? Or is it going to be something like in the middle? It's going to be a GameCube. And they're going to kind of start making their decisions based on how that goes. Do you think that's having an effect? Is it that big of a deal?
I'm not sure. I've just been completely derailed by the thought of a Wii U like product reappearing. I'm just like,
I'm sorry to put that in your brain.
Yeah, Fortunate Son is playing in my head, and I'm having PTSD flashbacks. Where I'm like, no.
the transparent images flashing behind you. Yeah, I can see it right now.
All the games. It's just
Devil's Third.
It's just Zombie U over and over again. I'm like, oh no, what happened? Yeah, I feel like Nintendo is in a much stronger position, especially like they don't really make consoles anymore, which is kind of funny if you think about it. They were like, look over there, just like absolutely drowned the consoles. They were like, goodbye. Look at this. That's nice.
The Game Boys, but your new console. So what the hell?
Yeah.
All right,
it's wild.
I guess.
So like, I don't know. I think Nintendo's in a very privileged position and secure position than most, but like, they put themselves there. Like, it's not like developers and publishers and companies in the West are looking at them and being like, oh man, that's impossible for us to do. No, it's very possible. It's doable. It just requires some kind of like empathy and even thinking a little less selfishly. I think that's the main thing. Capitalism is driven by being selfish. Like, that's kind of the point.
Yep.
But like, in this day and age, it is destructive to the point where there was a time when any old Joe Schmo could become a capitalist, success at some point. That ain't the case anymore. Like, that is it's not happening. You are gonna be part of the grunt class for most of your life, and you know what? I'll take a new GameCube.
Yeah, I would too. If that's what we ended up with,
I'm gonna be sad the rest of my life, give me a GameCube.
Yeah. GameCube will keep the sadness at bay a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, everybody. When we get back, we will have Switch 2 stuff to talk about, I guess, and a handful of other things right after this. All right, we're back, and I got a headline here. Switch 2 launching this year with 8-inch LCD screen. This is a report, and we're going to get the report via Evan Campbell at GameSpot. While Nintendo still hasn't unveiled a Switch successor, a new report says the company's next system will sport an 8-inch LCD screen, LCD, not OLED, and will arrive later this year. That would be the biggest display ever for Nintendo. Omedia analyst Hiroshi Hayase is the source behind this latest info for the Switch 2, according to Bloomberg. Source is like, he's an analyst. He is making an analyst prediction. I do think that the reason Bloomberg was kind of hot and heavy to post this, though, because I think it lines up with what they're hearing. This is from, is it? The guy that Bloomberg who always has the Nintendo rumors. I'm sorry, the name is escaping me. But the story goes on to say an LCD screen could also be seen as a step backwards for Nintendo since Switch OLED launched in 2021. The upgraded hybrid console features a 7-inch screen, while the original model had a 6.2-inch screen. The latest info lines up with a report from last year that Sharp was making LCD screens for a new game console. The company was cagey at the time about the collaboration, even apparently taking down presentation slides after the fact. Meanwhile, the most popular PC handheld system just upgraded from LCD screens when Valve unveiled the Steam Deck OLED in November. Earlier this month, analyst Serkin Toto predicted that Switch 2 would be a more iterative than revolutionary. The founder of the consultancy group Catan Games also believed that the system would launch this year, costing $400. Tam, we are reiterating a lot of predictions that have been made, a lot of like rumors that now feel like they are being accepted as probably likely fact. This year, 8-inch screen, LCD, $400. I bet every single one of those facts is probably going to happen. Tam, what do you think?
Yeah. This was by Takashi Mochizuki, I think.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yes, the name escaped me. Yes.
Yuki Furukawa as well, I believe.
Right.
And what I'd say to that is it's not about the size, it's about what you do with it that matters.
Oh, Jesus. It's about the motion of the Mode 7 graphics, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So what was the question? What was your question on this? Like,
my question is like,
think about this?
Those like 4 facts. Coming out this year, 8-inch screen, LCD, and $400. All that sounds right to me.
I think that given where Nintendo is at, what factors have led to its success in the last few years, especially in the Switch generation, pivoting away from the Wii U, they want to replicate as much of that as possible. That goes from how much they spend on R&D and production, manufacturing and marketing, to price point of the thing, and all of that kind of lines up with the timing of how long the Switch has been around, and what the next step for them logically is. So all those kind of elements that have been reported feel like they make perfect sense.
I agree.
It lines up so well.
The circumstantial evidence is all there as well, like where we look at the way Nintendo behaved with the Switch as the generation went on, where they never lowered the price of the Switch, not really, and then they had the Switch OLED, and they raised that up to $350, making it very easy to make the next system $400. That's only $50 more than the OLED. And then they will have an OLED down the line that could be $450, even $500. They are giving themselves flexibility by training the consumer, because they kind of have a lot of us in the palm of their hand, and they know that, and they're going to take advantage of it. They're a capitalist corporation like any other.
The LCD element of it is a bit of a sticking point for me.
Yeah,
and
it's a bit
confusing. It does suck, but
it's shit.
So it's shit. I think the bigger question, the bigger issue is why and what does it mean for this new hardware? So, like, to my mind, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like, in this line of thinking, Nintendo, one of the reasons they do stuff like this, where they use old tech, is because they usually have some sort of gimmick to their consoles, or they have some sort of kind of idea that they're trying with a console. They're a company that always feels like, or they personally believe they're trying something risky. And in order to kind of do that, execute on that risk and minimize the potential damage that it does to them if it goes askew or it doesn't work out, they kind of rely on older technology, so it's not like crazy expensive.
Yeah,
think
definitely.
About the PlayStation 3. Huge risk, used cutting edge technology, was a disaster for Sony and PlayStation. Whereas
to the point where they almost didn't make a profit that entire generation.
Yeah,
That's how messed up it was for them.
Whereas Nintendo will do something wacky with old technology, and if it completely shits the bed, they're like, we didn't lose much money on it. The idea of that going into it kind of carries through into the next iteration of their console or their hardware. But if the next iteration of their hardware is already a proven gimmick, why the step back? If the Switch is going to be if the next Switch is going to be iterative on the Switch 2, Switch 1, which has a proven success to it, what is stopping them from going, okay, we know that everyone loves this shit. The thing that they want now is that, but better. So let's put an OLED screen in there. But instead we're like, we've got a new Switch. Let's take it back a notch so then we can go forward again.
I think you're right there. I think you set it up where it's like, I think they believe in their gimmicks. The Switch 2 is probably going to be iterative. It will still definitely have those headline gimmicks that Nintendo always does, with like the 3DS nub is always the one or new 3DS nub is the one I always go to. They'll have something at least of that level, probably something a little bit more marquee than that. IR camera on the bottom of the Joy-Con for the Switch, things like that. There will be something along those levels. And I think Nintendo is a company that sniffs its own farts on this stuff. I think they buy what they're selling a lot of times. So like, we believe what we're doing here with this gimmick actually does matter and does make a difference. And 6 months from now, everyone will stop talking about it, or 6 months after the system launches, everyone will stop talking about it. Even Nintendo won't really have much of it anymore. But leading up to selling the system, I think there's a lot of drinking the Kool-Aid on it. So I think that they feel very comfortable going back to that old technology. The reason it's easy for them to buy in on it is because it saves them money. And you nailed that as well. That's what it's really all about. They want to make money selling their hardware from day one. And that means the big deal is this little 3-cent thing that we added in that makes, the HD Rumble or whatever, and they'll have some new version of that. The kind of it will be the thing that they talk about in their marketing a ton, and no one actually cares about because they're just happy it's basically a Switch again.
Yeah, I think like we're past the era of big swings, like where every new console is a drastic difference from the last one. I think that, like it or not, the foreseeable future for Nintendo hardware is going to look like a Switch to some degree. Yeah. So I feel like the gimmick days, and when we say gimmick, we know there's a negative connotation to the idea of a gimmick.
Forced obsolescence. It's the the new thing when you get the 2024 Ford F-150 and whatever they talk about in the commercial. It's that thing. We get it.
Yeah. It's that element of it. So like the ideas behind a new hardware are going to not be like too outside of what a Switch-like device is capable of. The maybe in the previous, when motion control was becoming a thing, they were leaning into it. That was definitely like I think like more dictionary definition of a gimmick. But yeah, I feel like I'm definitely interested in seeing it, and a lot of the response to it has been, this sucks because we know what it can be with an OLED screen.
Yes,
Nintendo has done it, but like LCD screens are still ridiculously cheap comparatively, relatively speaking. They can also look really nice. Like it's not the end of the world, but like the thing that pisses people off, and I think the thing that the issue that a lot of people are having, and maybe they're not like vocalizing it in this way, is the lack of progress, especially relative to other companies.
Well, it feels like we go from the last Madden of one generation to the first Madden of the next generation, and they strip all those features out so they can slowly add them back in over the course of the generation again. It feels like that. We know we're going to get... who knows? It'll probably be an OLED. For Nintendo, it'll probably be an OLED when they do a revision of this new device. But it could be micro LCD or whatever. Micro LED. There's a bunch of different competing technologies now that are looking to kind of sneak in on OLED. And
Nintendo's also in one of those like very rare positions where it's like they can be like, look, we made dog shit, and then
and I'll buy it.
Then they show you dog shit, new Super Mario game running on the dog shit, and people are like, I want to smear that.
They got me in their palm. They have me.
Yeah,
I am wrapped around their finger.
Like
I will show up for this dog shit.
It'll look stupid and on paper until they show you the next Mario game or the next Zelda game or the next Metroid game and be like, hey, this is the game that is running on it, and everyone will be like, all right, I guess I'll buy this, and it will fly off the shelves, and Nintendo will laugh its way to the bank again.
Pardellis asks how much Labo I bought. I think I bought the first Labo, and then I think Nintendo sent me the second Labo thing. So there might be other Labos. I got the 2 big kits. They had a bunch of little things in there, and actually just got them out to do all the rest I haven't done yet with the kids this week while Steph's out of the country. So looking forward to that. Asus plans to release a 2nd-gen ROG Ally later this year. This is from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. Asus
I'm begging you.
Okay, let's go.
Relax on the window shit. Okay? I know you're going to put Windows on there. I know it. You had a good device. The Windows part of it sucks booty hole in the worst way possible.
It's very frustrating. I it still will plug it in and it still won't like go into standby mode if it's plugged in. Occasionally it does if I'm lucky. It's what it feels like. It decided to listen this time.
Asus, the ROG Ally is a very, very good device. Armory Crate sucks.
Yeah, it does. Okay? And I've been using that Ioneo slide, and like that Ioneo slide has its own problems. And I'll talk about all this in a more detailed video at some point. But the Ioneo slide's software way more responsive than Armory Crate. And I was like, oh, this can work on top of Windows. I thought it was like Windows holding these things back. And obviously that is still part of it. But it's like, no, it instantly responds every time I press the button. And Armory Crate's like, give me a minute. I need to get off this couch.
It's bizarre. I feel like I am using a Motorola device in the age of an iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, that is how it feels, where it's like you look at it and you're like, why does it look like this? Why does it perform like this? I hate every part of this.
They're hardware companies, and then they have to make their own software, and it's like they definitely have software teams, but that is not their focus, and they're bad at it.
Yeah, but like they're onto such a good thing with the ROG Ally. Like the ROG Ally is a fantastic little bit of hardware.
I went back to it after using the slide, and it was like, oh, this is actually so comfortable to use. I forgot how comfortable the Ally is, and then it's really powerful. Yeah,
it is surprisingly light.
Yeah,
I love my Steam Deck, especially since
the OLED
one.
My favorite right now, still.
Yeah, fantastic. But I also still played the Roger because I'm like, I feel like the Ally is a really good travel device because it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's lightweight. It like performs really, really well. So I'm just like, you're so close. Just don't do the Armory Crate thing again.
Well, the good news, they're releasing a new one this year, and you got to imagine that they are seeing enough investment from the public, enough buy-in on this device that they will invest a little bit more themselves on improving Armory Crate and improving that software. And it's like, if you can get it close enough to fixing these annoyances of how Windows behaves on a handheld, and get Microsoft to like pick up their end on that bargain as well, make Windows 11 better on these devices. I get they're probably going to stick with Windows 11. There are some third-party devices that it's beginning to ship with SteamOS. That's not necessarily what we're asking for either. I love SteamOS. SteamOS is great. But I do want devices where it's like, oh, I actually can play Destiny on this. I can play a bunch of Windows games that won't work on Steam or cause a lot of headaches to run on Steam. All the Game Pass games. So get Microsoft to pick up their end of that, and then just make the software a little bit better. Put an OLED screen in there. Use the new generation of chips, whatever. I probably will be all aboard on this. But how do you feel about the, hey, we got the ROG Ally last year. We're getting a new one this year. How do you feel about that cadence? Because that's not what Steam is doing. Valve is doing with the Steam Deck.
I don't love it, but I also understand it. This felt like a bit of a shot in the dark, or like a thing that they were like, let's try this. And I think they might have been caught off guard by the success of it and how well it actually like turned out. And they're in a position now to be like, oh, people really like this thing. They keep saying XYZ should be better. What if we made that better quickly to capitalize on the awareness around this thing? Because right now, like, there's a lot of these devices out there. I feel like they're in a position to be, but I feel like the ROG Ally is the one that stands out after the Steam Deck as being the thing to get and to talk about. Like, it's the Xbox to the Sony to the Steam Deck's PlayStation,
right?
If you know what I mean, like in terms of profile. So I feel like this cadence, I'd be interested to see if this is the cadence going forward, or if this is the moment where they really want to plant the flag and they need to do this to make it happen. And it just so happens it's a yearly kind of a 1 year after they put the original version out. I hope that it's more a case of the second, where it's like, oh, we tried this, it worked out really well. Like everything is pointing towards us doing this again and making it better. While let's strike while the iron is hot. Put out a better version of this. Give people and make sure that it's got enough like runway to last a few years, and then down the line we'll put another one out.
Yes, I'm right there with you. That's what I hope as well. I hope this isn't actually going to be a yearly thing. But that'll be the poll question later, everybody. We'll ask kind of how you're feeling about the updates to these handheld PCs. We'll get that answer when I return to do the show. All right, last story. Harada thinks about how hot Tifa is, just like the rest of us. In response to a fan on Twitter.com asking for the Final Fantasy VII character to be added to Tekken 8 through DLC, the series producer said, "We all know she is attractive, and I understand that. But as yet, we have not decided anything about guest characters, etc." And then a little addition here from the editor. "Sorry, Jeff, this is very important news. Tam, I know you get it. Anyway, watch the Scrub League on UPF today. Love, Sean."
Yeah.
Thanks for your input, Sean. I appreciate it. Yeah, he does. Of course he thinks about it. Of course Harada gets it. Oh, boy. Do you think, who's more likely, Tifa or like Mai from King of Fighters?
SNK, King of Fighters?
Yeah.
I mean, the Super Freaks both get what they want either way. But
either way, sure.
Who do I want? I want Tifa. Like, I 100% want Tifa. Tifa is the GOAT. But I think like Tifa is the smarter pick. Like, you don't really want. Yes. I think Tekken's good about grabbing characters that make sense, and Tifa just makes sense.
Well, Tifa, you know what people say about Tifa? She's the Negan of Final Fantasy. So that.
What? Who are you saying this? I need to have a word with them.
I just said it. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me.
I would love it if they were like, we made a deal with Final Fantasy and we got all the punching people from every Final Fantasy in this. We've got Zell, we've got
yes, there
Tifa,
you go.
We've got
but it's just all the different Sids.
I don't remember anyone. Yeah, yeah. Oops, all Sids.
Oops, all Sids.
Yeah, Sabin.
All right.
But yeah,
I am getting the poll question. Go ahead.
Tifa.
Sorry.
I would like Tifa.
I'm
trying to think about who else I would want in Tekken. I had one the other day that I was like, it would be cool if they put this in Tekken. Oh yeah, fucking put Kiryu in there. That's what I was saying. Or like I think more appropriate would be Majima. Like, I would love to see Majima
he would fit in there.
Yes. Yeah, and like that would be so. Or have Kiryu, but like have Majima like just every now and then randomly run in and do a punch. Because he's everywhere.
that would rule. Yes. Mike in chat says he doesn't believe Harada, that he hasn't thought about guest characters. Do you believe him? Because I think I'm with Mike on that one.
He's the 100% thought about it. Yeah. There's no way. He's lying to everyone's face.
Okay, that's what I figured. All right. I
also want to acknowledge that Kiryu does have rules that prevent him from being in fighting games, including he doesn't hit women. So.
Then he just automatically loses those matches. That would be great too.
But also, like, it's the King of Iron Fist tournament. Kiryu, grow up.
Yeah, come on.
Get in there. Start punching some women.
Yeah,
it has to happen.
They'll hit you just as hard. They're going to hit you.
They're going to punch you. Yep. Yeah, it's going to hurt. So just get on with it.
Yep. Don't be sexist, Kiryu. They can handle it. Yeah. All right. We did no poll question yesterday because I wasn't in the mood after those layoffs. So we will have a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. In the meantime, Tam, what are you guys going to do while I'm gone? What do you have happening over in GameSpot? Where can people find you?
Okay. It's going to be chaos.
That's what I like to hear.
So I don't, as you mentioned, next week, I'm going to chat to Jan and be like, yo, we should maybe think about if there's a way to just do something in the morning. Jan, let's chat. 8 a.m. every day next week. Like, I'm sure we can, like, at the very least,
I wonder. 9 a.m. You guys can do it later if you want. I guess you guys have probably have meetings and shit.
I've got stuff to do. Yeah. But like, maybe we could just like shoot the shit. Every day except Tuesday, I guess. Maybe I'll figure out a way if I can just like stream something at 8 a.m. every.
If you guys stream, I'm just gonna be sitting around, so I'll call in every once in a while and I'll give you guys the quick news rundown. Yeah. Or you guys can play poker. There you go.
I'm not great at poker, so I wouldn't mind just a bunch of us jumping on just playing like poker for a bit and being like how do we play this game?
That's Jan's in the same exact boat, and Jan wants to learn real bad, so that would be fun. That'd be really
Let's do it. Jan, let's talk, man. Let's talk.
Very cool.
Jan and Sean as well, and whoever else.
There will be fun stuff on the site for sure. You guys next week.
If that doesn't happen, shit is still going down.
Jeff's is back next week, right?
Jeff's is back, and it's back to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure next week. That should be fun. This week, GameSpot has the latest Spot On with me and Lucy will be going up today. We talk about Pal World and what the fuck's going on over there. And then UPF is happening today. What's UPF today?
Tekken 8.
Tekken, yeah. Tekken.
If we can get the servers working. I was thinking if we can't get the server, like if there's connection issues, because we had trouble making our own private room last night. It was crashing on us. If that happens, maybe we'll just parsec into one device and we can all still keep playing that way. Sean says servers seem fixed though, so that's really good news. Okay. So
I got my leverless controller yesterday.
Really?
I'm very excited for that.
Okay, awesome. How have you tried it out? How's it going with the hands?
I've not tried it out yet. For like it felt better.
Okay, good.
But I imagine it's also going to be down to how hard I'm hitting things. So I just need to chill a bit on that respect and my hand placement. I need to do the
you got to do the wiggly, the wiggly bits
instead of this.
Right, you got to just let gravity do most of the work. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Tekken 8, it's gonna be a scrub league. That's what Sean was talking about in his Tifa horniness earlier. The Tekken 8 scrub league will be happening today. We're gonna just kind of do round robin or maybe a little tournament style where we kind of play against each other, and that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait. There is a BCR today as well. Bombcast Revengeance. I was going to be on there. We're going to do a Like a Dragon review. Jen, I don't know if you saw on Slack. I can't make that. I got to take some kids to a doctor's appointment. They'll still be doing it, though. I believe Lexi, I believe Imran's going to be on there as well. I'll make sure that Imran gets connected with you, Jan, to talk about that game. So look out for that. And then, next week, there will still be some fun stuff. Blight Club, I'm still going to show up for Blight Club next week because I could just sit here and watch Mike's misery. That totally works just fine. All right. I think that's going to do it for the show. Tam, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, again, I love being here. And I will hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, I'll pop in here and there. I'll be around for sure. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Thank you for the nice things you've all said this week, and especially after we're dealing with the tough news. The way we all are in this together, that's how I feel as well. Let's keep it going. Till next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Okay, so.
Yep.
All right, everyone.